Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors, and if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community, and without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. The first one is titled HOA Ban Disabled Girls Emotional Support Kangaroo and Faces Hell in Return. My daughter, Alicia, is the most beautiful and lively person I have ever known. And she has Down syndrome. I proudly say that she does not let it slow her down or inhibit her in any way in life. But as she became a teen, she started to have anxieties and insecurities that she never had before, so I enrolled her in a wildlife rehabilitation program for kids with disabilities. She thrived there, and the people who run the program are truly amazing individuals. I could not have asked for a better recreational activity for Alicia to be in. There is even a sister program that lets the kids ride horses and help assist the veterinarians with other tasks. Then one day a rare opportunity came up. Alicia had been going there for about 6 months, and one of the vets and her had really bonded. Dr. Brooks, who worked at the zoo as well, brought in a baby kangaroo one day, saying that she needed someone who was willing to foster him. His mother had died and he would require feedings every few hours and lots of care. Dr. Brooks chose Alicia and our family to take care of this little marsupial. He was a red kangaroo that would one day grow to be very big and dangerous, but for now he was a precious little thing that needed a mother. Alicia was so excited, and it just lit me up inside to see how happy she was. The first week with the kangaroo, which we named Johnny, was an interesting, somewhat stressful yet wonderful experience. He and Alicia seemed to bond immediately. We had him out in the yard, and a few neighbors that had kids my daughter's age came over and saw him. I have an older daughter named Samantha who is incredible on the piano, varsity basketball player and honor roll student. She has lots of friends that decided to come by and see the adorable kangaroo, so we had some traffic that may have drawn some attention to us from the HOA. It only took 2 weeks before we got our first warning letter. It said that Jonathan was not a house pet and therefore we needed to remove him from our property. They also labeled kangaroos as dangerous animals in the letter, which I may agree with if we were in the outback and came across a wild full-grown male, but little Johnny? He barely weighs 10 pounds and has to be bottle fed every 2 hours. He is not dangerous to anyone. I did not tell Alicia about the letter because I did not want to upset her, but I did show her older sister Sam. She, being the fiery young woman that she is, started telling her friends. A few days later we received another letter, this time more threatening, stating that we had to remove Jonathan from the property by the end of the week or they would be fining us $100 a day for having an unauthorized pet in the home. I don't understand why they care so much about a little kangaroo. I ended up calling the number in the letter, but they never answered. Samantha took to social media and so did her friends. Facebook was a huge influence as the town's chatter page blew up with comments from people shaming the HOA. Samantha and her friends posted pictures of Alicia and Johnny and the evidence of how happy she was written all over her face. During all of this business, I had started the process of making Jonathan Alicia's emotional support animal. I know that we will only have him for a short time, but the certificate would be a nice remembrance for her, plus it might make the HOA back off if I have ESA advocates in my corner. Alicia realized there was something going on and started asking us questions. She was worried and wanted to be involved. Johnny is her responsibility after all. I encouraged her not to be concerned and to only worry about taking care of her kangaroo. It did not take long at all before the social media influence that Samantha and her friends developed with Johnny and Alicia was taking the town and nearby cities by storm. The story had reached out to thousands of people and the HOA was in the spotlight. And not in a good way. There was very little support for the HOA, and it was clear that there were going to be a lot of negative comments and attention directed towards them. We went several days without any word from the Homeowners Association, and then we finally received a phone call. It was a woman who introduced herself as Lisa, the lead of the HOA. Interesting that she chose to finally give me a ring after they basically got reamed on social media. Lisa seems nice and cordial enough though. After the niceties, she tells me that she saw the posts about the HOA trying to get rid of Johnny. I tell her that everything in the posts was true and that she needs to be rethinking the way she treats disabled individuals. I tell her about Alicia and how Johnny and her have bonded and how he has been a great thing for her. Lisa goes on to say that the reason that they were asking us to find somewhere else for him is because she does not feel like he is an appropriate animal to have in the suburbs. I then explain that he is only a baby and that we are only fostering him temporarily. Lisa's tone had changed to a somewhat short one, saying that she does not believe in having wild animals in quiet family neighborhoods. So I asked, tired of the conversation, "Are you going to let us keep him?" That is when Alicia pops up next to me. I'm not sure when she got there, but she seemed adamant that she talked on the phone. I let her take my phone and Alicia starts talking. I don't think she gave Lisa much room to speak after she introduced herself. Words began pouring out of my daughter, not angry words but happy ones. She said to the surely surprised HOA leader that she was so happy that she has been able to take care of her kangaroo, that Johnny was silly and snuggly and that she loved him. She said thank you for letting us keep her sweet kangaroo. I guess she misunderstood when I asked Lisa if we could keep him and thought that she heard her say yes. I'm not sure, but either way, Alicia's excitement and words seemed to have swayed Lisa. By the time that I took the phone back from Alicia, Lisa was chuckling on the other end. She said, okay, I will let him stay, but only if you promise me that you are going to send him away before he is the size of a grown man. We both laugh and agree to the terms. Lisa turned out to be a great person and publicly apologized for everything, saying that she misunderstood the situation and no longer wanted to evict little Jonathan. She even came over with the other board members to meet him and see what all the fuss was about in the first place. We shared some wine and snacks and had good conversations. A few months later, Johnny went to the zoo and made some kangaroo friends. Alicia is allowed to go and see him sometimes when Dr. Brooks is there. Lisa even has a daughter that is a little younger than mine and they have gotten along great. They come over on occasion and we enjoy each other's company. I'll admit that my HOA is not as toxic as others. I'm pretty lucky that I have a good friend and understanding board leader. And yeah, Ripe Stars, I honestly did not expect this to turn out the way it did. However, I'm happy for little Johnny and Alicia that they did not have any issues with the HOA after all. And I have to admit, the whole topic of emotional support animals in the United States is very interesting, especially the one time I have seen an emotional support alligator on YouTube. At first you would think it is fake or something, but it was absolutely real. The next one is titled Military School Payback. The following happened in the late 60s. I was in a military school in the Midwest. The main barracks was a 3-story affair with Company A on the first floor, B Company on the second, and HQ Company, where I was, on the third floor. The building was originally built around 1890 or so, with an addition dating from the late 1940s. As such, the wiring for the PA system and emergency lighting in the hallways was exposed, generally running where the walls met the 12-foot high ceiling. I don't recall the exact dispute that set this in motion, but the result was that HQ Company had gotten the short end of the stick due to the actions of B Company. Revenge was in order and a cunning plan was devised. A friend and I located the wire run for the PA speakers for the second floor and found a point we could access them from the main stairwell. It was late February/early March in the Midwest with a cold front coming through, 20 to 25 miles per hour winds, about 15 degrees Fahrenheit outside and nothing between there and the Arctic but a few barbed wire fences. At about 3 AM, we took a length of speaker wire, connected one end to a pair of sewing needles and the other to the output of a rather powerful amplifier. The needles were then poked through the insulation of the PA wiring. I had a record containing all the standard army bugle calls and we put that on the turntable. At 3:05, B Company was awakened by first call. 45 seconds later, we played formation call and then yanked the needles from the PA wiring and went to the window to watch the fun. B Company was in the formation area, freezing their butts off and thoroughly confused. To characterize their appearance as motley would be kind. By 3:30 am, the faculty OOD, cadet duty NCO and battalion bugler had been rudely awakened. Protests from the duty NCO and bugler that they didn't know anything were finally accepted, and the investigation started. Fortunately, it quickly stalled when no one could find any means of explaining how it was done, much less who did it. Questioning of the usual suspects was fruitless. The episode then faded into the school's oral legends passed on from one class to the next. Oh yes, I still have the record album. The next one is titled Greasy Landlord Gets His Just Desserts. I needed a place to stay and did not have much of a choice in the matter. The price and location were right, so I had to rent from this slumlord. The landlord, he is a self-proclaimed handyman. He drove a gutted out crap ball of a van filled with cheeseburger wrappers and junk. Acted less than interested in any of my problems as a tenant. I went through 3 fridges, used ones, not new of course, hundreds in groceries, lost a bunch of clothing and furniture. When the house flooded twice in 1 week, there was a faint but constant smell of natural gas. The furnace only worked when you lit the pilot light, which you had to do every time you wanted heat in the winter, and half a damn tree that landed on the roof during a storm but was never removed. And now me, Minnesotan, tend to be too damn nice at times, always pay my rent on time, took care of all of the utilities and general upkeep, mowed, shoveled snow, cleaned the lawn, etc. of the property during my tenancy. Just all in all, a good tenant. I have too many stories about this cat, but I will get to the revenge part of this. I had finally had enough and I had decided to move out of this slum. I had lost thousands in my own money to use on the upkeep of the property since the landlord had no intention on helping me ever. I had found a new place and had told my landlord the news when I handed him a check for a month and a half and told him that I would be moving out in a set number of days. We agreed and it seemed to go quite well. This is when all of the crap really started running downhill. He showed up in my apartment one day unannounced and was looking for something. To this day, I don't know what, but I confronted him and he ran out of my apartment like he had just been caught snooping in a woman's panty drawer. Then when I'm at work, he starts leaving me this really creepy message saying I did not pay him rent and that I've been destroying the property. I brush it off, take a few days off of work and move out of my place after I call my new landlord explaining my dilemma. My new landlord agrees to let me move in early free of charge. Awesome. I move out and get a couple of friends to help me deep clean the place. It is amazing what you can buy with a case of beer and some pizza. We clean the place and it is spotless. After we finish, I get this weird feeling and I take pictures. Tons and tons of pictures of every room. Feeling content, we pack up the rest, lock the doors and leave. We had a good night and I bought pizza and beer for my friends that came out to help. A couple days go by and Slumlord Larry calls and asks where I went. I explained that I really wanted to move and I worked out a situation with my new landlord that would allow me to move in early. He started shouting at me on the phone, going off about how I still owe him money and I could not terminate my lease. Which, by the way, there was no such thing and just a verbal agreement and the exchange of money. I had enough of his business and I hung up. A month goes by, I hear nothing from the slumlord. Then, all of a sudden, I get a certified letter from him in the mail along with some pictures. How the hell he got my new address, I think to myself. I open the letter and the dude is going to try and sue me, stating that I damaged his property with supposed pictorial evidence and for the neat sum of $5,000 it would all go away and we would not need to take it to court. I say F this and I call up my parents to get the number for their lawyer. I explain everything to him and tell him about the pictures I saved. I ask my lawyer if there is anything I could do about this. I am steaming and I want blood. My lawyer laughed it off and told me to go check and see if the property was listed under a rental property in the city that I lived in. The next day I go down to the government center and I find out that the slumlord does not have it listed as anything other than residential. I turn him in and I also find out that the property cannot be rented, and a permit for someone to even come look at the property to make sure it was up to code in the country I lived in was around $5,000. Jubilant would not even begin to describe my mood at this time. I was white guy celebrating the crap out of the lobby. I call my lawyer as I am leaving the government center and tell him the good news. As I am leaving town, I decide to drive past my place and see if anyone is living there. As I pass, I cannot believe my eyeballs. I see the slumlord and a buddy of his called Toothless Dave outside the house destroying the siding. I also see that they had effed up every exterior part of the house to try and pin their misdeeds on me. Months go by, I hear nothing, my lawyer hears nothing, despite multiple tries to contact Slumlord. At this point I am filled with an overwhelming sense of joy as I stuck it to that loser. But wait, there is more. I was telling this story to a buddy of mine at work one day and he knew exactly what house I was talking about. His dad is the county building inspector and he was telling me about how his dad had stated that the property was so damaged that the house was to be condemned. All I am left thinking about is what did he do to that effing place to condemn it after I moved out. And the next one is titled Neighbor Revenge. A bit of background, my daughter lives in a small terraced cottage in a tiny village in southeast England. Her house is on the main road through the village, her front door opens right onto the street. Outside her house no parking is allowed, but 50 meters down the street are some parking spaces. For those of you not in the UK, where parking is not allowed, the council paint yellow lines on the road by the curbside. It is so quiet, there are no police or traffic wardens. Between where the parking starts and the yellow lines finish is a small section of road that is block paved rather than tarmac. It is just a bit longer than a car length. It is within the no parking area, but due to the nature of the block paving, the yellow line paint has all come off. So I go to visit my daughter and mistakenly park on the block paved area because there are no yellow lines and visit my daughter. When I get back to my car, I am amazed to find a parking ticket on the windscreen. I mentioned this to my daughter and she told me that the woman who lives in the house adjacent to that part of the road probably reported me to the council because she usually parks there herself and I had taken her spot. Here comes the petty revenge. I asked my daughter to let me know every time she parked there and I phoned the council to report her. She has had 3 parking tickets so far and now does not park there anymore. P.S. I did try to appeal the ticket on the grounds of the yellow lines being worn away, but I was turned down and could not be bothered to go to court. And yeah, Ripe Stars, that's gonna be the end of the video. Thank you so much for the nice comments about Disney. I read some of them to her and I think she really enjoyed them. And yeah, thank you so much for the awesome support as usual. And yeah, I think Disney's ears are also getting better. We have to give her some eardrops or something, so that's why her ears, like at least on that side, are a little bit dirty, but we tried to clean them yesterday, but it's like some sort of oil or something, so it's not so easy to clean. And yeah, she's just so cute, really a cutie. And if some of you are wondering why we moved again, because I've read that a few times, like why is Ripe moving so much? And well, the simple answer really is that my girlfriend changed jobs pretty much. So her old job was in Bangkok and her new one is here in northern Thailand again. The city is called Chiang Mai. For a long time it was the biggest city, the second biggest city in Thailand. Now I think it's the 3rd biggest. So yeah, now we are living here again. And this was originally also the first city where when I first came to Thailand, the first city where I stayed and where I also met my girlfriend. So it's definitely nice to be back home, especially with Disney. Okay guys, thank you so much for watching and I hope to see you again tomorrow. And ripe stars, with this we have reached the end of the video. However, if you still cannot get enough of my content, then I would highly suggest to check out my endless binge watch playlist, which will soon show up in the left corner of the screen. In addition, I would really appreciate it if you could not only subscribe to the channel, but also turn on the bell notifications, which you can do by clicking on the little bell icon right next to the subscribe button. This will help my channel tremendously, and this will make sure that you don't miss any of my videos. Furthermore, if you want to see additional ripe content that I don't post on YouTube, then I would suggest to head on over to patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more than 50 exclusive videos that you will not see anywhere else. Thank you so much for your amazing daily support, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.